Hello. Oh, God. That's so loud.
Shout.
Okay. Thanks for coming to our Scrolls panel. Oh, thanks. Yay! Yay for Scrolls. So we've got lots of fun things planned for today. We've got some discussions of the future of Scrolls and some chats about the previous things that we've done and how things have changed. I am Owen. I'm not directly involved in the development of Scrolls, but I handle the website and do some of the flavor text and stuff like that with the guys. Now, I think we should introduce who we've got on the panel. So let's go down the list and everyone introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Mattis. I do, like, as all the artists, I do art. I paint the art, and then I animate the art, and then sometimes I paint other kinds of art. But I'm the most animate-y person, so I do call myself the animator.
Mattis, the animator. That's a good title. I'm Måns. I write code and do a bit of game design.
I'm Jon. I do a lot of the back-end stuff and the AI for the single player.
Hi, I'm Henrik. I'm one of the artists, and I also consider it my job to stop Måns from doing game design. And now, as a side project at work, I also try to manage content production in some sense.
I'm Poi, and I'm one of the artists, the newest addition to the artist team. Thank you for coming here.
Newest, but not the least.
We could have just used that mic for those guys.
You want to go through your thing?
Oh yeah.
So we have a Scrolls tournament coming up at 2:00 over by the computer who's way over there. And we have an award for the winner, a painting that Poi has made. So we just thought we'd show that.
Cool. So yeah, if you enter the tournament at 2:00 and you win, then you get to take this home, which is pretty cool. It's been signed by almost all the Mojangsters, I think, and drawn by Poi. I like the build-up, Poi.
Perhaps turn it around.
Nice. Cool. So Måns has lovingly prepared a presentation for you guys. So I guess the best thing to do would be to start talking about it. Let's do it. So over to you, Måns.
I'm just going to leave it to Mattis. I'd just like to point out that that is a sister of the Fox from Scrolls, in case anyone was wondering.
Painted in oil.
No, that's acrylic.
Okay, painted in acrylic, which looks like oil. All right, so now we're going to do the obligatory introduction of Scrolls for the people who are not intimately familiar with the game.
Who in here has not played Scrolls, just out of curiosity? Awesome.
Good, fantastic. Let's explain the game. Scrolls is a game about scrolls. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, you have something that looks like a scroll, which is, of course, this game's abstraction of a card, because it's a sort of a trading card game or a collectible card game, collectible scrolls game. By playing matches in the game, you can, as you play the game, you get access to more and more scrolls, with which you build a deck. And each game, you are start the game by being dealt a hand randomly, and as the game progresses, you draw scrolls each turn, and with those, each turn you can choose to sacrifice them to get resources. And so your amount of resources, it rises. Yeah, you can see that in the lower corner. And as that number increases, you can play the scrolls. They have a cost. So as the game progresses, you play stronger and stronger scrolls. Some of them are creatures, as you can see. Dudes with huge cannons and cannons without dudes, and dudes with slightly tinier cannons. And you place them on the board, they attack forwards in a straight line. You try to move them around strategically and wipe out the other dudes on the other side of the board. Eventually you clear a path to the idols in the back, and when you destroy 3 idols of your opponent, you win the game, and then you are a victor. And that is basically how the game works. A little extra detail, as you can see on the dude to the next to the guy on the lower left, he has his resource number has this little yellow icon, and the other guy has the little grayish blue spirally icon. These are the symbols of the 4 resources, different kinds of resources. And so as you play, you decide which resource you want to focus on, and there's an almost equal amount of scrolls for each resource. They have their own identities. So that's so that everyone does not play the same deck against each other, because that would get boring. We have these different identities. So we have energy, and they are the cannon guys. As you can see on the board here, they are one of the factions represented on this screenshot. They're very mechanically oriented and very aggressive. They have the most directly damage-dealing scrolls in the game. So they are the one with the largest freedom to just point and say, explode this, and then it explodes. And yeah, violent dispersal, for example, which makes a scroll be very destroyed. And then on the other side, we have the resource of order. Order is the more flavor-wise, they're an empire. They don't have that many scrolls that deal direct damage, and they are not super aggressive either, but many of them have effects that strengthen your army position-wise. So some help your units attack like more frequently than they would if they stand next to each other. Some boost units that are like front or back of them. So they are like an army. You build your little army and try to position it perfectly and attack with that. And then we have 2 other resources. One is growth. They look like shamanic Vikings and animals. They're very aggressive, and they try to come down on the board very fast. They have units that have haste, and they just attack as soon as you play them. And they're not all very strong as they come out of the board, but if you manage to keep the board and keep control of the board, many of them grow over time. That's why they're called growth. And the final faction here is called the Decay, and they are some weird voodoo shaman people who live in a swamp, and they're all about decay. They have zombies, and they have people who turn units into zombies when they die. So they keep coming back. Sometimes, even as they die, they deal damage to the idols on the opponent's side. So even if you kill them, you still get hurt. And then they have a lot of poison effects. So those are the 4 factions of scrolls. I guess that's enough for the introduction.
All right. So now we thought we'd talk a bit about what's coming in Scrolls in the future. So there's a new set of cards, 60 Scrolls in total, 15 for each faction, called Rebellion, and that's our next set. And we have Henrik talking a bit about what sets are.
Amazing. Yeah, so in brief, what are sets? Most collectible card games divide their content, their cards, into more manageable chunks. They're usually called sets. We're not innovating here, we're just basically following what others have done before, and there are very practical reasons for it. So in the beginning, we didn't have a need for this because we just needed to add more and more scrolls to the game to get it going. A card game is the cards, or there's no game without the cards, so we needed just a lot of scrolls in there. But as the collections have grown, the need has for making chunks of it has grown. So that's what we've done. We've divided the old scrolls into sets and are continuing to plan the new scrolls into sets. So as Måns said, we have chosen fairly small sets because we'll want to stay agile. That if we find that we need to change the plan in a certain direction, we can do it within a month's notice or something, as long as we keep the sets this small. So what are the reasons for sets? Well, currently for us, it's basically only a planning tool to give ourselves milestones in this marathon of making a collectible card games. There's no upper limit on how many scrolls we could make if scrolls is successful. So we're just using the sets as a planning tool. So in the future, I guess we will add their set identities into the game as well. But currently, there's no real need, as we don't have that many scrolls yet. And how that will work, we'll have to find out as we go along. The small sizes of the sets will also affect how you will be able to get them, of course. So I have spoken about these sets online 1 or 2 times, so there's some questions that have arisen I'd like to address. I've already stated that we will do something about how you can get scrolls from specific sets in the future. We're not there yet, so that's one of the big questions. And the other huge concern I've seen is whether our adding sets to the game means that we'll start phasing out old scrolls. Well, that's to which I'll have to answer yes, no, and maybe. Which means that I don't think any scrolls will be phased out in a practical sense. But in the future, they might be disallowed in certain tournament formats. That's kind of how things are done in these games as we see them. So I don't think you'll ever lose your scrolls, in a sense. But we'll have to listen to the community and those who are playing competitively to see what's the right way to deal with them in a tournament format. But it's a long way into the future before we get to the point where we need to do something about that. So basically, that's all the semi-confusing info I had on sets.
I'd like to just add some state the obvious, which I love to do, is that one of the benefits of dividing, like Henrik said, we divide our upcoming releases into these sets as a planning tool and as a way to organize the development of scrolls. Right now it has been very much a process of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, and I think that's a good way, has been a good way for us to create an environment and know, like, try things, make mistakes, and gain knowledge. And now we want to use this knowledge more to develop the game in a more controlled fashion. Also, one thing that's good about dividing our releases into sets is that if we want to do themes, we have set boundaries for that. If we didn't have sets, we could say like, oh, let's do a theme about, I don't know, cool giants, like, I don't know, or like piracy. I don't know, like we have this theme that we want to make. It doesn't matter what it is. And up till now, it's been, if we've said that, like, let's make a piracy theme, that's cool, pirates are cool, and then we'd start designing scrolls, and it's like, when does this theme start, and when does it end? When do we stop making piratey cards? What is this? Now we know that, okay, let's make the next 3 sets pirate themed, and that kind of thing. So that's an obvious benefit of having that.
So let's talk a little bit about what the next set actually is. It's called Rebellion. It pits the Empire, which is the Order faction, against the other factions, arising at the fringes of the Empire. It's basically growth, energy, and decay rebelling against Order. And one big part of this theme is champions, a leader for each faction that is a very strong unit that has a significant impact when put on the board. The one you see in the background here is Nuru, Flesh Seamstress, and she's the leader of Decay in this set. We also have K Royal Envoy, is it? In Order. Top Reaver Thea in Energy, and Jarl Urhald in Growth. Nuru, she spawns zombies instead of attacking a bunch of them. It's a very powerful attack. And she's high-costed like all the other champions. Jarl Urhald, when he takes a beating, he grows stronger, so he's very useful when at low health. Top Reaver Thea is somebody who helps other units on the board, other energy units, when it dies. Is that correct? When she dies. Sorry. And which did I not mention? K, Royal Envoy. Yeah. She's harder to enchant or cast spells on for your opponent. It's a very, very strong unit. Another important aspect of this is idol hate.
God, we hate idols.
We hate idols. So basically what this means is we're introducing abilities and rules that will let you focus on taking down idols fast instead of going for units on the board. Previously in Scrolls, you've always wanted to go for the units first, and we're trying to make it more viable to go for the idols with an aggressive deck. So to do these things, we're introducing 3 new keywords. There's unique, which all the champions will have. That means that you can only have one of them on the board at a time. Dominion is an ability that says when at least, or while at least one idol is down, you have an extra power of some sort. An example of this is the Bladed Husk down in the lower left corner here. And it's a decay unit that while at least one idol is down, it has an attack value that is 2 higher than its normal value. And we have Pillage, which is too close to the mic.
Yeah, sorry. Just grabbing it. Pillage is an ability that activates whenever you strike at whenever the unit that has Pillage strikes at an opponent's idol. There's an activate, like an effect that happens. So this one, what's it called?
It's Wetland Ranger.
Wetland Ranger. Whenever it attacks each turn, which is very good in itself, but if it strikes at an idol instead of a unit, it gives all your units +1, is that so? +1 attack strength during your next turn. So it's good at the fringes of the battlefield, as the other units target mainly units. You can like try to go around roundabout with this unit and strike at the idols instead, getting in some idol damage and then helping your other creatures attack next turn.
We should also mention that Dominion will be shared between Order and Decay, and Pillage will be Growth and Energy. All right, that's what we have on the next set. So let's move on to talk a bit about how we're balancing the scrolls. It's a question that comes up a lot. There's basically two ways we balance scrolls before release. For units, that is creatures and structures that you put on the battlefield, we have a formula that we use as a basis, and then to calculate its cost, and we adjust the value based on other factors as well. We'll get to that in a bit. And for spells and enchantments, it's basically shooting from the hip, but it's an educated guess. We've done it before, so we have a good feel, we think, for what the cost should be. This here is the formula. It's very exciting, isn't it? Basically, we're using the attack, countdown, and health values, that's A, C, and H here, to calculate the cost of a unit. And based on a lot of factors, we modify this cost. Abilities would modify the cost. So Relentless, a common ability in Scrolls, let's step back a bit. Relentless is an ability that makes your units keep on attacking even after killing a unit, so they can attack multiple units. And that's very useful in a unit with high attack values, not so useful on units with low attack values. So depending on what type of unit you put this ability on, that would change the cost in different ways. Then there's flavor, rarity, which resource the scroll belongs to. All these are things that affect the cost of scrolls. All right, then we move on to internal testing. So basically we play the game, make sure that stuff works as expected and that the balance is reasonably good. After which we move on to put it on our test server. And the test server is a server with a small subset of testers that we've invited. Its primary use is to ensure uptime of the live server. So we find major issues and make sure those don't cause downtime on the down server.
So we're basically looking for game crashing bugs.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And then after that, there is also one more thing I'd like to say here is this is no ID. He always gets in the way. It's a bit of a crude joke. He was released to the live server without being on the test server first. One of our first scroll releases after the beta launch. Now, no ID, he wasn't very balanced. You could say completely broke the game. We fixed it fairly quickly, but we think that if we had had the test server at the time, we would have found this. So it's useful for balance as well. And after that, we put things on the live server. And the great thing about having a digital card game is we can still change things. So players really matter here. The feedback and the bug reports and whatnot that we get from the players, they lead to changes. So just recently we released a fairly large balance patch, adjusting balance of about 20 or so scrolls.
There's a question in the corner.
There's a question?
Do you ever find that the players, once you go live or in the test server, are adopting a strategy that you didn't really think of?
Sorry, once more, please. Or could we get a mic there?
When you go live with the players, do you ever find that they have a game-playing strategy that you didn't account for in your formulas?
Yeah, that was it?
Repeat the question for the mic.
Oh, okay. I'm repeating the question. So when we put things live, do we ever find that players find a strategy that that we didn't anticipate that could be potentially unbalanced. Is that right? Do you want to answer this?
I was thinking that. Oh, sorry. I was thinking that if anyone wants to, have any questions. I could go on
We
further.
have a bit of space for questions later as well.
Okay. Well, I'll just
Yeah,
sit here.
we do find that there's been a number of cases where unintended uses of scrolls has been found, and we kind of like it. We're we're fans of combos that we didn't originally anticipate, as long as they're not too game breaking. There was one called Puppet Nutrition that just destroys an entire row with very little cost, or at very little cost. So we did change that, remove that combo, but in most of the time we like to leave those combos in the game. All right, so Jon, you're up.
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk a little bit quickly about the AI in Scrolls. When I started on Mojang in 2012, I was asked to fiddle with the Minecraft AI, and I was pretty confident that I could do a decent job with it because I've been working with it before, that kind of AI. But then Jacob asked me to help out with the Scrolls AI, and I wasn't as confident I could pull it off because it's a completely different problem. So in Scrolls, we run all of the single-player AI on the servers to prevent cheating and stuff like that. So the AI needs to run really quickly. And that was my biggest concern. So how does it work? Well, the human brain is really quick to identify like patterns when you see most brains, not mine, when I play Scrolls, but you can see patterns quickly and you move your units and all that. But for a computer, it's not as clear how to do this. So the Scrolls AI works a little bit like a chess AI. It tries out a lot of different combinations and scores them. And so if it has a hand with a Duke, a Spearman, and a Focus, for example, he puts them everywhere on the field and scores each combination, and then he chooses the one with the best score. And each of these combination is also played into the future, so it simulates the game. For the hard AI simulates it like 10 times into the turns into the future to see what's going to happen if he plays it there. Most of the things it does, it's really bad moves, but it finds some good ones and chooses them. And also the opponent's movements is simulated on the first end turn, so it can predict how the opponent also is countering his actions. And this is I think it's a very good approach to the AI, because it makes it very adaptable. For example, when we released the Decay Scrolls, we didn't have to change anything in the AI, it just worked because it's just trying out combinations with the new cards and scoring them and choosing the best one. Also, it's a non-cheating AI, so it could look on the opponent's hand and use that information to know what to do, or just draw thunder surges all the time. But that would be ridiculous, and I would be ashamed as a programmer. But also I have to admit there is a little bug now, so it's actually a little bit of cheat, but I don't think it's noticeable. If you play a burn, it will know what card it's getting next. So click the mouse over there.
We have a question.
Oh, question.
Oh, wait.
Does it use the
calculate? Does it use the same formula to calculate the values of the cards as you do?
Actually, it uses a different one. But when I found that formula a year ago, it was very similar.
Okay.
But I would say it was a little bit better than that one.
All right. Because you did that one, the
Yeah.
first one. Of course. Of course. Thanks.
But yeah. And it's also, it's not only, that's just for the units, it also scores like the idols and the positions and the number of cards on the hand and the resources. So it has a lot of fitness function, and it sums them up and selects the best one. So the AI is obviously used for the single player stuff, but we also use it internally, like stuff you don't notice. So when we release new precons, we released one new precon. Oh, yeah, it's like the decks that you can buy in the store. We want to make sure that they're balanced, and to do that we can have the AI play thousands of games. So it takes the new precon and plays against other precons, the old ones, and it sees that, oh, this is about the same win ratio. Then we know it's balanced. And our first draft on the decay precon was winning 80% over the others, so it was not very balanced. Also, we found out that the start hand, if you played Scrolls, you know that the second player has one card more than the starting one. And we found out that that's a good trade-off to make it more fair, and by playing tons of AI matches with different configurations. So it's very helpful, and that statistics kind of makes sense when we look in the database as well, what the win ratio is now, player against player. And then when we use it, it's like a code assistance as well. As soon as we change something in the code that we don't want to affect the behavior of the scrolls, we can run lots of AI matches before and after and make sure that they are exactly the same. Then when we optimize something or refactor, we know that we probably didn't change anything unintendedly. And we'll use it for other code stuff as well, but it's not very interesting. And then and I'm working a bit on improving it as well, and making deeper searches so it gets smarter. And we have a version in the office that makes much more dynamic movements and stuff, but it's far too slow still to release on the live server. So that's in the future. Okay, I think that's it.
All right. I think that's the end of our prepared material. So are there any questions?
I'll just
a bunch.
I have my son plays Scrolls, and I have no knowledge of it. And I'm wondering if you could possibly just do like a short demo of it, and one of you talk us through it. Would that be a reasonable thing to do?
I was thinking just now, maybe we can play the trailer, because some people haven't seen it in action.
And as that's going, if you could talk us through it, say, look, here's what's going on, so we understand it, because I think I've seen the trailer and I still don't get it.
If you plug this in, I think I can change the trailer.
Let me just find out if I have internet access here.
Oh yeah, we needed to play it.
Or I can just play. I've got internet on mine. We can switch over for a second.
That's not good. My client is out of date.
You're supposed to
Good
be a
job.
developer. Can't you just code a new update?
Should I bring on the trailer?
Yeah, play the trailer. If you haven't got internet, you can't, can you?
Should I get some questions in the meanwhile?
Sure.
All right. Oh, we've got one here.
Are you ever going to add an in-game currency to like, because as Scrolls, are you going to have like because there's decks with resources, but are you ever going to add like in-game currency after you won a game? You get a little in-game currency, then you can go buy packs, and then you can customize your scrolls of decks, or is that not going to be a
It's
thing?
in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, now I feel silly because I don't know, since I just...
No, but it was a good question.
All right.
That's an obvious step to take, and we have taken
right.
it.
I think one of the big things with scrolls is that there's been lots of efforts made, so you haven't got to pay extra money to enjoy it. Like, I think there's a preconception with these kind of collectible card games that you need to kind of cash in and spend more money to advance through the game and to get to a competitive state. But that's something which is really important, I think, to Scrolls development. Like, whenever we're tweaking something or adding something, it's always right to the front of our minds that any player, once they've bought the game, should progress, at a steady pace without spending extra cash.
Next question.
What makes a good or bad deck?
Lots of creatures. You need creatures. You need to... Because there are spells that will kill a creature. Violence. But once you've used it, it's like... It's spent, right? And your hand is finite, so if you have 6 scrolls that do damage and you play all of them, then eventually you have nothing in your hand. But a creature, you put it down and maybe it destroys another unit, and then usually 2 turns later it attacks again, and it keeps doing that. And that way you can invest on your board. And if you make sure that the opponent's units are destroyed and yours stay on the board, then you'll probably win the match, and that's what creatures do. So many creatures that attack often, there's a value called countdown in Scrolls, and if it's the countdown of 1, it will attack every single turn. Countdown of 2, it will attack every other turn. So 1 countdown creatures with good attack are very, very useful. Is there anything else? Basically, what makes a good Scrolls deck?
Well, it's often a good idea to keep the number of resources you combine. You can mix and match the resources. Just use 1 or maybe 2 of them. Don't use all of them. All right.
Next question.
Yeah. I've been playing Scrolls for a little while now, and when I first started, I picked an Order deck. And I noticed that Order seemed to have a bit of a disadvantage versus Energy, and when I'm doing some research, I noticed that certain decks were good versus certain decks. Is that intended as sort of a rock, paper, scissors, or are you hoping to balance each deck to where they're good versus each other?
We're not... It's not our intention to have a rock, paper, scissors mechanic between the factions as a whole, but between different specific decks, definitely. So you could build a deck that's all about the ranged units, and that will normally be very effective against spiky units, for example. But it's not our intention that you shouldn't be able to build a deck in Order that's good against Energy.
This is also a question of the amount of scrolls we add into the game. The more scrolls we add, eventually we'll be able to... When you have to pick again amongst a small subset of scrolls instead. Right now, if you want to... We don't have enough scrolls to have that kind of metagame. So some kinds of rock, paper, scissors situations, they appear. And hopefully as we add content, things will balance out themselves a bit more. We'll have to look into that as it happens.
Next question.
Okay, so I just played Scrolls for the first time today, and I was wondering, would you consider adding in a unit for each faction that could repair damaged idols over time?
I think we're very we're cautious about that, because even though as a player, if you're losing, you will want to repair your own idols. We have a rule that we almost all agree on. We almost agree. This is how Scrolls development is. We usually almost agree on something, and then we almost put it into the game. You shouldn't be able to get back dead idols. Like when they're destroyed, they should be down forever, because Scrolls is already considered by some to be a slow game, and the more you're able to heal yourself back up, the more the game can drag on for like, I don't know, 60 turns or something like that, and that it's not very enjoyable. So we'd rather give the player an opportunity to kind of lose quickly and then get it a new shot.
And just to be clear, we do have idle healing in the game, not units, but we have spells that heal idols. So we could potentially make units that heal idols, just not destroyed ones.
Next question.
Quick question. In the long run, do you have any plans on adding more than the current 4 factions, or is it going to be pretty much the 4 factions permanently?
We don't have any plans. It could happen, but and I'd like to, but the main problem with it is that there would be tons of work to get that faction up to par with the rest of them, which means that we'll have to put the others on hold. So it is a really planning nightmare at this stage of the game, but I would sure hope so, because right now we have 4, and you can combine them so to get many kinds of decks, and if you add 1 more, then it combines exponentially. So obviously it would be nice, but at this point in time, it would disrupt the content planning too much.
Next question.
Do you have any plans for adding Scroll to either mobile devices or the real world?
I can. Is it? We won't be making a physical copy, because that was from the start. We knew that we wanted to make Scrolls as a digital game for a digital environment that allows us to do things that other games that are physical get into troubles when they try to translate it into a digital environment. So there won't be a physical copy with these mechanics, at least, that's for sure. And tablets, we would love to have it on tablets. It's kind of a big step, so I think the current idea is to make it a bit more finished before we get there. We're still talking about this. We're not entirely sure.
But yeah, it would be great on tablets.
We've adapted it for touch controls. Like, we had lots of right-clicking in the game, and we took it out so that it would work on tablets. So we've obviously prepared for that idea.
Next question.
I just had a question about your backgrounds and what got you interested in this, and then I know we have a short time left, but kind of your creative process as well. Like how do you actually do this? How do you think of that stuff up and get to that partial agreement stage?
Would you care to elaborate on that question a little bit? Like, how do we get to exactly what stage?
Well, you have these just incredibly deep visions for these characters and the scrolls and the abilities. Do you hash this out together in a room talking? Do you do it on your own and you have this, here's my scroll I want to add to the game?
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Usually, when it comes to Scrolls development, then like when questions about like what is the approach, the answer is almost always yes, because everyone is more or less winging it in their own way that they prefer, and we have meetings where we just duke it out and like have ideas and debate and show sketches to each other, and sometimes we work only by ourselves and then pitch it to the team, and some things just like sometimes organically just ideas arrive and we don't know whose idea it was, it just is in the game suddenly.
All right, I'm sorry,
we have the screen as well.
We don't have a lot of time, do we?
Okay, sorry, just quickly. That's part of the sets the method we're starting to planning on a macro scale. So, and then we return and do them by ourselves, and then we return.
Should we return to the first question?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
All right. So we have Owen playing scrolls here. He's playing an order deck. He has sacrificed a couple of scrolls to build his resources up, and placed 2 units on the board. Would you mind hitting the control button, Owen? Or hold Alt. That works too. Oh, that's cool. So hitting the control button just shows all the stats of all the units. The leftmost number on each unit is the attack value. The rightmost is its health, and the bottom one is its countdown. So Owen's units are at 1 and 2 countdown. That means they're not attacking this round. Now the AI just finished his turn. It's Owen's turn again. 2 of the units counted down to 0. That means they're going to attack this round. If he can move them 1 step each turn, any unit he likes. And when he hits end turn eventually, they will attack, dealing damage to that cannon. Papa doesn't like the sound of my voice much. I don't know, you're playing weirdly.
So, please endure, Owen. Please endure, for the sake of everyone. So, the thing is that lots of overload of information, but that's how it goes when it comes to these kind of games. All the units, they have an attack value, a countdown value, and a health value. And they also have abilities. Like, sometimes, like, they all have their own identity. So, for example, the crossbowman, he will only attack every 3rd turn, but he does 4 damage when he attacks, and it only costs 1 order resource. So you can plop it down on the board, and if you keep it alive, it'll deal a huge bunch of damage. But the investment is huge, because if the opponent kills him, then you'll have invested in him for nothing. This, the guy who's in the back of the left row, what is it? Click it, Owen, click. Royal Infantryman. He will increase the health of the units standing in front of him. So he's very useful like that. He supports the guys in front, so they can shield him well. It's a very typical order mechanic. The other factions don't have this. They don't have this thing that people on my row get these bonuses. That's an order identity thing. The spearman, he has a spear, and the spear is pointy. That is why he has the ability called spiky. And if a unit runs into him, that unit will also take damage from the spear. But as you might see here, that little cannon dude, who is soon to attack, he won't take damage because he doesn't run into the spearman. Instead, it can attack safely from afar. So that's sort of how it goes with this game. All the different units and their different abilities, they interact, and it becomes incredibly deep strategically. It's kind of like mixing an already very complicated card games, and then you put chess on top.
All right. So we're already 10 minutes over time.
Right.
So what I think, I'd like to say again that we have a tournament running at 2 o'clock. Just a small tournament, 16 people. And whoever wins will get this awesome artwork from Boyd. And we'd be happy to take more questions outside, but we have to clear this room, I think.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.